Hello everybody. Hello, I was wondering, do I have my mic on? I do, because now I can see the meter on. Hello everybody, welcome to another show. As usual, it's been a couple of weeks since the last time. By the way, before I forget, there might be a chance that after today's session, we might have to wait a little bit more than just a couple of weeks. But I will let you know anyway on social media as usual, but I'm just giving you the heads up, all right? So, a part of the promise this season was we can have content every week, and that's been true so far, but, it's summertime, and there's, I would like to take some time off, basically. But that's not actually the reason, only that reason, but that might be the case, okay? So I'll let you know as usual. But yeah, let's see how's everyone doing here. Hello everybody. So we have the usual suspects with us tonight. CGI Master, I believe Russia, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, CGI Master? Correct me if I'm wrong. We have UK with Sabine. We have RT Studios. Hello, RT Studios. We have Workflow in Mind that says notified. Yeah, it's been a while, isn't it? I know that this season it's been more about insights from the guest, I guess, rather than notified. But I think we need to even that out a bit better. So we'll see if we can make more of those, because I know that it's a favorite. I think it started actually with Sabine actually on the first season, the notified thing, and then it became something that people always push for. Yeah, I was right. CGI Master is from Russia. I believe it's Alexei, but he's been really quiet. He's not. He doesn't want to disclose who CGI Master is, whether it's he or she. I believe it's Alexei, but I might be wrong here. Anyway, guys, welcome to another show, and we're gonna have a great show as usual. I always say this, obviously, but let's start with the updates in terms of what happened these couple of weeks. Of course, we have to talk about the usual topic, which is the pandemic. As you all know, the easing of restrictions across the vaccinated countries continue. Cases are on the rise again, but it seems like these cases are a little bit more controlled in terms of hospitalizations or severe cases. That's obviously due to the vaccination and due to the vaccines themselves. But in any case, it seems like we are witnessing at the moment, according to a lot of reports actually, that it seems like with these new variants, things are changing slightly again. In terms of it seems like these variants seem to compromise the immunity that some people have once they have had the full vaccine. So we are seeing people getting infected, not, as I said in the beginning, not like severely, thankfully, obviously, and let's hope that it continues like that. The problem is, if they need treatment, they will need to go to the hospital, and if there's a lot of people with that need, of course, staff will become overwhelmed with the amount of people in the hospitals, and because of that, probably these people will get compromised in terms of the treatment that they can get. So things are slightly changing, it seems, with these new variants. We'll see what happens here. But because of that, as you probably heard also, and we've been hearing this for the past maybe, I don't know, a few months actually. I'm talking about the third dose or the booster dose, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it one thing, some people call it another. But because of that, some countries are already, some of them are already giving that booster. I'm thinking about Israel, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're already doing that actively. Correct me if I'm wrong, if any of you have information regarding that. But the Biden administration in the US obviously is expected to advise this COVID booster shots for most Americans. So I'm not exactly sure when this will happen as like an unofficial kind of a situation, but we've been hearing this for quite a long time now. So it seems like it's actually going forward. WHO, I think we talked about this actually last time. WHO is asking to slow down the booster, while we still have like a lot of countries, unfortunately, without the normal vaccine. So why talking about booster if we can't vaccinate the whole world, I would say, right? Because this only works if everybody is vaccinated, since we're talking about the pandemic, which affects everyone globally at a global scale, right? So at the same time, of course, we can argue, yes, but if people are getting sick again, of course we have to treat them. And if there's a vaccination, why not? If there's like this booster, why not? So I'm not going to get into what's the correct way to go about these things. Who am I to say, right? But it seems like this is actually happening. But it's also weird because I read, I think it was today, that there was a study conducted recently, and we've been hearing these studies very often actually, and the one that I'm referring today is Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine protects against Delta variant. So it seems like these studies find that they're actually effective. At the same time, people are getting sick again or getting infected after getting these shots, and of course I'm talking about Moderna, but I read other studies about other vaccines, for example Pfizer, that it was found out that it seems like it's also very effective. But then we have this reality, so I'm not exactly sure how these things, it's hard to understand which one we should hear, right? We should hear science, obviously, but at the same time it's a bit hard, as I'm sure everyone can understand, which thing should we actually hear, right? Because I think everybody's trying to learn how to deal and live with this, and of course there's a lot of unknowns still. There's a lot of things that were discovered at the same time, but we have like this conflicting reality, it seems. And speaking of which, I read this today also, probably some of you did too, that New Zealand just entered a new national lockdown over one COVID case. It seems like it's a Delta variant case, and because of that they've decided that okay, it's time for a new lockdown. So it's a bit daunting to, I would say, to think about enduring another lockdown. I don't think, to be honest with you, and you've been hearing me saying the opposite in the past, but I think by now it's very hard. We'll see what happens, obviously, but I think it's hard to think about another lockdown in Europe. We'll see what happens. I hope I'm right this time, because nobody would like that, obviously, but we're seeing, on the other hand, we're seeing like this happening on other parts of the world. Of course, very different continents, very different countries, very different politics also involved in many different ways. But we'll see what happens. And also Australia continues with its lockdown, as far as I'm aware. So I think they are now over 1 month in lockdown. So all of these things, it's happening. It's weird, right? Vaccination for the younger generation is also in place and being rolled out in different countries, of course, at different times, as we had for the target population or the target type of ages. But this is now in place, and in the UK, every 16 and 17 years old are to be offered a jab by 23rd of August. So we're talking about a week from now, I believe. Yeah, a week from now, more or less. So yeah, this will also happen, and it's already happening in different countries too. And What else do we have for this week? On top of everything that is happening regarding the pandemic and all that stuff, we are all aware of what just happened in Afghanistan. I'm not going to get into politics of the situation because this is obviously not a political show. I don't want it to be ever. That's not what this is all about. But in any case, for those of you that were possibly distracted these past couple of weeks, or past couple of days actually, because this happened just that recently, and this is also because this show, as I've mentioned before, is also an historic document. I think it's important to refer this also, talking about, of course, the Taliban occupying Afghanistan again after 20 years. The entire international press is covering this situation extensively, and of course, for those of you that are interested in knowing more about this, I'm sure you will have no trouble in finding sources, obviously. But yeah, on top of everything, this is also happening, which takes me to, I'm sure that some of you, sometimes by now, everybody's tired about this situation, COVID and all that stuff. But the reason why I also mentioned what I just mentioned now, it's because, it seems like, at least sometimes I feel like this is happening, what I'm about to say, which is like, it seems like the world is under like a really, severe changing mode. Because a lot of them change, and they change very rapidly for the past couple of years. Not even from the pandemic, which is obviously what we're talking about here, and its total disruption in terms of like personal life and professional lives as we knew it so far. Of course, because of that, a lot of good things happen and will happen. Of course, it's also important to refer the positives, not only focusing on the negatives. But in any case, I'm talking about change overall. So we have, of course, the pandemic, which is like really big, obviously, and because of that, a lot of other things happen too. Some of them more related with the pandemic than others, but in any case, it seems like it's all happening at the same time. So talking about the pandemic, we're talking about this crazy weather that we're all experiencing these days in many different parts of the world, whether it's flooding, whether it's like crazy temperatures, and you name it. I'm talking about. So this global warming thing, it seems like it's giving like really clear signs that this is actually happening. This is not a joke. I actually read a couple of days ago, or maybe a little bit more, that the international scientific community is saying, okay guys, I mean population, humankind overall, this is like, we have no wiggle room anymore, so we have to do definitely something about this, because this is getting a little bit daunting, and maybe to certain situations there's no coming back unless we start actually doing some things about this global warming. And we are witnessing the effects at the moment, for sure, in many different parts. We're talking about like Canada. We talked about this also a few sessions ago. Canada experiencing like 50 degrees temperatures, something crazy like that. So it's really crazy at the moment. And also big leaps talking about change, big leaps that we witnessed these couple of years since the pandemic hit, big leaps in development, about new technologies also in our industry, but not only, and including also this new space race that is like the latest craze, right? So, it's unbelievable about all of these things, and these are just examples, but they are really big. And it's a little bit crazy to think about like all of these big things that happened in just a couple of years. It would be unthinkable, I would say, yeah, if it was like 3 years ago. We're talking about, okay, in this year or within like 1.5 years from now, we're gonna witness all of these things. It's really, sometimes I stop for a moment and thinking and think to myself, like, is this really happening? You know what I mean? A lot of good things happen. I'm not talking about just the bad things. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm talking about also positive things, obviously, and we talked about many of them in this show. But in any case, it's a lot of them. A lot of things happening in just a short period of time. So For those of you, and I know that we have like been very blessed in that, like many different countries watching the show, not necessarily speaking live, because of course it's a global thing, the internet obviously, so people might not have the chance to watch this live, but I know that a lot of people, you know, as usual, send me messages and stuff like that from all around the world. I hope all of you are doing okay. I hope all your families are doing fine as well, and if you encounter yourselves in a bad situation, think that this will not last forever, okay? And without a doubt, the world is changing quite a lot, as I just mentioned now, but things will get better for sure, okay? We've been through difficult periods of time in the past, and for sure it's gonna happen again, the fact that we're gonna overcome them as we did in the past too. VFX wise, for example, we're living a very good moment. So the hiring spree continues, which is obviously a very great thing. And so, you know, regarding this, there's no major news actually, apart from the fact that this is a continuous good moment, and I think it's going to continue like that for the next, I don't know, I'm not going to say a number, but it's going to be like that for a while, which is great. And it's great especially, but not only, but great especially after this difficult period for the entire film sector, for the entire filmmaking sector, right? In which, of course, VFX is included. So it's now great to see that all of these companies around the world, even new ones, even, you know, sometimes here and there companies that we never heard about, or they were like not really well known, but it seems like everybody's hiring at the moment. So it's great. It's a great thing. So for those of you that found yourselves either out of work or concerned about what would happen, which is obviously more than understandable that people would think like that, or, you know, something along these lines. I think now this is definitely a good moment, so your time will come for sure, okay? And I hope the show also helps you guys with that, like finding new solutions, new techniques. Also, obviously, with the Next Level program, which was like a big effort on my part, I have to say. But it's great to see that so many people now joined and are enjoying it. So I thank you all, me and Monica, obviously, from the bottom of our hearts. We are trying our best to give you the best as well, but it's great to hear this feedback from all of you. Cool. Speaking of which, by the way, and now it's time to talk about the technical highlight of the week. And in one of the past calls of the current class, there was one person, I'm not going to mention the name because I'm not sure if this person wants his name to be disclosed. I already gave away right now without warning if he's he or she, but anyway, I'm talking about VFX cameras database. For those of you that don't know, this website can be handy once in a while, like if you're trying to find the characteristics about a certain camera, whether it's film sensor or whatever that might be. There's a website called vfxcamdb.com. I'll be putting the URL as usual in the comment section after, but in any case, you can check that right now because I think it's a handy thing. When this person mentioned this, I was like, yeah, maybe I'm going to mention this in the show, in the next show, because there might be something that people might not be aware of, and it's also a good technical resource, I would say. Cool, so let's take a look at all of you guys in here. So we have Livia. Hello, Livia. Livia was our past guest. Hello, Livia. Good to see you here as well. Luan says, hello, Pedro. I did try the nebulas. Really loved your Teach Tech. I believe it's Teach, right? Thank you, Luan. Luan has been, you've been, correct me if I'm wrong, Luan, but you've been like with us, like in the show from the very, very beginning of the first season. So it's great to see that you're still with us. You're still putting up with us. That's great to that's great to know. And thank you, by the way, about the nebulas. I did see it just a little bit before the live show started. I did see your nebula result. Keep digging for structures, and you can take this technique to other fields, you know. It's really up to you, but one thing that really helps in everything that we do, I would say, but definitely with nebulas, because it's something that we don't see every day for sure, it's to watch and see a lot of references always on the side, and you'll see that a lot of the things that I've mentioned on the last episode are true. So it's very complex, there's a very fine detail, there's a lot of breakup as well, there's a lot of negative spaces in nebulas. It's not only about color, it's actually also a lot of negative spaces, so breakup is really important. And there's variations, you know. I've just showed you guys like a very quick, as usual, a very quick example. It's more about the technique for you to explore, you know, your own technique. You know, it's very important, and I always say the same thing. Your own technique is very important, more than just copying someone else's technique. It's very important to you know, create your own ways of achieving what you're achieving. And let's face it, you know, we're living, as some people say, because I've heard this before, we're living in an age of refinement, not so much invention. Okay, invention as well, don't get me wrong, but it's a lot of what we do is about refinement, and refinement is always also to take away or take in some of the ideas and make it your own, with some differences, with some things that are truly yours. So yeah, great to know, Luhan, and thank you once again. All right, so guys, it's now time for the tech corner. So tech corner this time, it's going to be in comparison with what we've been showing so far in the show overall. It's going to be a little bit shorter. Okay, so we can have like this mix, possibly this season, this mix of a little bit longer ones, a little bit shorter ones, but it's not about the size, right? It's more about I would say the insights of the, you know, the information that I'm trying to pass to you guys. And today it's going to be one of these guys, so a little bit shorter, but I think you're gonna like it. For those of you that are not so aware of particles, we've mentioned particles in the show a few times, but not like this. This is very specific about what we're going to talk about, and I'm talking, you'll see obviously, but it's about how to isolate specific particles within your simulation to better or to more chirurgically tweak your entire particle system. So we're going to take a look at that right now, and then we're going to have our guest. It's going to be very, very interesting. I always say the same thing, I know, of course, but I'm sure you will like it as well. Okay, so enjoy your tech corner, and I'll see you in about 5-6 minutes. Okay, see you guys. Today we're going to talk about particles, more specifically how to control certain particles within our particle system that we're not so happy with, and possibly kill them, or if you really want to analyze that particle in particular, we also can do that. For example, I have this particle system here. It's just, you know, whatever, just to have something going here. And let's say that for a certain reason, I'm happy with everything, but I'm not happy with this particle here. So if I want to tackle this particle, you know, in a system like this or similar, it's going to be very difficult for me to know exactly how to control this and how I can isolate this particle to tweak it in a different way, or to simply kill it, for example. So it's actually very easy to do that, and from my experience, a lot of people are not aware of how to do that. So let's take a look at what we have available to us to have this type of control. So we have a particle expression, and this is all it takes. We don't need more than this. The thing is, we don't know how to highlight that particle. What's the idea of this particle? You know that particles go by individual IDs, but I don't know how many particles we have in here. We probably have possibly thousands, hundreds, I don't know. But this is actually the one thing that we need to have only. So if we put this particle here, this particle expression, a way that you can instantly see which particle we're talking about within your simulation, it's just put the color with the same ID number. So if I open the particle expression and type ID, this will make the color of my particles with the same value as my ID number. It's a little bit hard to see this though with the simulation going on, with whatever effects that I have here or whatever forces I have here. So the best thing to do is to unplug the particle itself and just look at, you know, these sprites. Now, if I go here, I know that, you see, I have this set to 68, which means that this color, it's actually my ID. If I don't have this, you see that this is just set to 1. So if I put this ID, I know that this particle, the one, this really one that I'm selecting, that can be one right on top of this one or right next to this one, but the one that I have, the pixel that I'm selecting, is actually highlighting the particle with the ID of 68. So what this means is, let's say that this is the particle I'm not happy with and I want to kill it. What I want to do is, I don't want this to be highlighted the color because I already know it's particle 68. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go to the channels field and I'm going to say ID it's equals to 68. And what I want to do with this ID is to set this to none. And now that particle is gone. So now what this means is, once you put your particle as you had it before, that particle that was the problematic one is not there anymore, as you will see. So this is with that particle killed, and this one is with that particle on. There's another one there that you probably want to get rid of, so you can always add some particles here directly, or you can create another one here to see, okay, I don't want this particle still, which, let's see which one is that. It's 72, so I'm gonna kill particle 72 as well. So instead of 68, I'm gonna put 72. Now it's gone. So if I plug my particle again there, now I have my simulation without those two particles. So this can be very useful to control your simulation in a better way. And, you know, although there's tools, why should you use the tool for something that is so easy like this? And, you know, if you still really want to use a tool, not that you know how to do it, do your own tool. I think it's always a better option. Now let's see a different thing, which is, let's say that you now want to analyze what that particle is actually doing. Instead of killing it, you just want to isolate it. So instead of doing this equals, you're going to say different than 68. So this will basically kill every single one apart from this one. So this one is going to be now isolated. You see, if you want now to, in just one line, isolate the other one that had the ID number 72, you can also do that. All you have to do is to put an end statement in TCL and then copy this stuff, and then instead of 68 you're going to put 72, and there you go, you have this. Although if you want to do the opposite, which is kill these two, we have first of all to change this to equals like that. You have to change this to or like this. So instead of a hand, you're gonna have an or, and there you go. Now those particles are gone, both of them in just one go. So, you know, very easy to control, very easy to look at what are the particles that you're not happy with. Don't forget to switch off the particle with all the things that you have available to you in terms of the actual particle itself. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for you to know what is the particle ID, because you have the particle with transparencies and stuff like that, and whatever treatment you might have in color that can make things very difficult to see. But with this stuff unplugged, it's very easy to see and to change and to control in these ways that we have seen just now. So hopefully now you're going to be more diligent on controlling your simulation if you happen to use particles in your workflow, and how to control certain particles within your simulation that you're not so happy with, or you want to analyze exactly what those are doing. Hope you liked it, and see you next time. Now, yeah, okay, now you can hear me. So yeah, so that was it. As I told you, it was a little bit shorter this time, but hopefully it was insightful in what I was trying to convey about this idea on how to isolate particles to better, you know, control your whole simulation, or to take away some of these particles that are just affecting your simulation in the way that you don't want, you know. Of course, this messes with expressions. A lot of people get put away because it's just the expression now. They don't know exactly, or necessarily speaking, how to deal with them, but it's not that difficult. I just showed you something very easy. Of course it helps, and of course the video today was not about TCL in any way specifically, but using TCL to something more practical. it helps, obviously, if you know this syntax-wise to accomplish different things. All right, but I just wanted to highlight this this technical approach to these things because, from my experience, a lot of people are not aware of this. And that was it. Hope you liked it. All right, so now it's time for our guest, and some of you might be aware of who this person is from social media, if not personally. So we'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's see who's on the other side now. Yeah, it's Vlad. Hello, Vlad. Hello, hello, hello. So I'm gonna try to pronounce your name, your last name, okay? Akhtyrskiy, correct? Almost there, not bad. Akhtyrskiy. Very close. Hello, Vlad. So good to see you. So we actually never met each other, personally speaking. Probably we are aware of each other. I was certainly aware of you. But I actually, from the very beginning of the show, I'm talking about season 1, I wanted to bring you in because the work that you're developing on this new thing that we all hear about, machine learning and all that stuff, is really interesting. And I think it's something that it's definitely changed the game. We might not be there yet, but I think we're going to be fairly soon. But before we get into all of that, do you want to present yourself to the audience?
I was working in films and visual effects as a compositing supervisor, as a VFX supervisor in Russia, and I moved to London at some point and started working for companies like MPC, Scanline, Frame Store. It was short contracts, long contracts, different. And then with Frame Store, I moved to Montreal and worked there as a compositing supervisor. And from Montreal, I moved to Vancouver to work for MPC again as a head of compositing. And now I'm at Scanline, and I do some automation work. That's what I can say.
Wow, that was very concise in a very short period of time. Talking about like 3 minutes or something like that. You beat I think every guest like to tell your entire life in just like 3 minutes. So very good. Yeah, cool. And actually, before we get into that, because well, as I said, we never met, personally speaking, but of course I'm aware that you're from Russia, and it was quite interesting to, you know, understand when I was prepping this interview, understand that you had like your career developed quite a lot in Russia already back then, and then you decided to go to London to pursue probably different, you know, a more specific thing or something different maybe. But what was the motivation? Because you were already at that time like a supervisor, right? A VFX supervisor, right?
Live. Like, yes, that's it. I mean, sometimes work drive me to move to Montreal or Vancouver, but London was life, just personal reasons.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And I think it's very also important, and I always say this because you know, a lot of people that watch these shows and have these people in mind about, oh, he or she was so lucky because he was in this place or that place. I mean, you have to make your own luck, you know what I mean? If you're stuck in your own place from the moment you're born until the moment you die, and if you don't risk anything, of course nothing will happen for you. So I think it's very important.
Absolutely. It's a hard work to find it. Like when I moved to London, I didn't know anyone in the industry, so I had to improvise. It was 2009, and what I did is I basically flooded all companies with my CVs. I put it my CV. By that time, it was letters accepted as well. So I sent them a letter. I brought a kind of like a package to every reception, and I filled up online applications. And after I did that, after like 2 months, I got the contract. But I was filming commercial and kind of try to survive. You know, it's always hard work, even if it sounds easy. You need to be prepared to certain moves and actions. And
always one thing that I often say, and people that are in the program or people that know me and worked with me know that I always say this, which is you have to, luck, what I say is luck can turn out to be bad luck very quickly if you're not prepared, because the train is passing by. You know, there's the opportunity there, so it's the luck part, right? But if you're not prepared, you can't go, you can't jump in, you know? You just see like the train going by, and then it's bad luck.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah.
Right?
But it's about life in general, like
Yeah, of course.
how short it is actually.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like, and if you have plans, and how much time do you have to actually realize your ideas and plans or build something what you want?
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. You just mentioned that you actually worked in the biggest studios in London and outside London as well. And one of the questions that I'm interested in hearing from you is, since you already had this career in Russia, what were the main differences that you found once you get yourself into, because you had like a couple of months of like knocking on doors and bugging people out and stuff like that. Once you got in, what were the main differences that you found in comparison with the practices, especially about practices that you left in your home country, in terms of like how you do things, how you think about things? Was like similar, but just a different country, or it was like a completely different experience? How was it for you?
Well, by that time, it was absolutely different. And though I started at MPC as mid-level compositor again, so I had to do steps back. And
that's hard, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it depends on what you want. If your ego is bigger than reality, then you need to deal with your ego, right? After just first day, I realized that I'm mid-level compositor. I need to learn properly how to do it in a bigger scale.
Yeah.
But again, it was back 2009. Now things changed since that. And I think the level is almost everywhere pretty the same. But pipelines, organizational part, and templates and documentation and structure, that was the biggest difference by that time between working like back in Russia. And even though like everyone trying to build their approaches, it's just a machine, kind of a conveyor system which built in these big companies.
Yeah,
that's what is the biggest difference.
It's the scale, isn't it? The scale means a lot of different things, right? So, yeah.
And in the end, it's just a logistic. If you think about like what we comp together, all these things need to be delivered to us in certain ways.
Sure.
And if you simplify it, it's a logistic, and it was different.
Yeah. I'm also asking this because, and this will be part of, I would say, the core of our conversation today, because you have a big passion. You have this in common. We have a big passion for tool development, processes optimization, automation, and that's why I was asking if you found major differences on that front, because not only in London, you spent some time in London, which is like a big school, I would say the biggest, and then you moved, after a while, you moved to Canada, which is where you are at the moment. You're in Vancouver at the moment. So did you find the same differences between London and Canada regarding all of these things that are your passions, or how was it that for you as well?
You asking about like technologies or
technologies? Technologies, tool development, optimization, and all that stuff. I'm not sure if you already had that, because you mentioned this in your intro, that you already had that kind of thing back in Russia, right? Back where you came from originally. So that's why I'm asking.
Oh, I always try just to, first of all, understand what I can simplify, automate. No, that never gone. I mean, that's a passion for like of my life basically, is to simplify my life.
Yeah, and others, right?
And others as well, because we work in teams, right?
Yeah, sure.
Working with people for me is like, I'd say, I want, as a supervisor or head, I want everyone in my team to know everything I know. That means that we can do things faster and more efficient, and have our life as a humans
back.
Which is a very important lives back. We're fighting back right now to get lives, and that's what COVID time showed us, gave us this moment to actually stop, breathe, and understand. For a moment, understand like, hey, where am I in all of this fun as a human?
I think that's so refreshing to hear, especially from, you had positions as head of 2D as well, so you dealt with many different things rather than just being an artist. Of course, you came from an artist background. Now you are more involved in tech, all of that stuff. But it's really refreshing to hear all of that stuff coming from senior roles. Part of why I wanted this show to happen was also because of that, to demystify this type of behaviors that people think or ideas that are nothing but just preconceptions, you know what I mean, about this type of personalities or this type of roles or this type of journeys, because we're all the same. Well, we're born the same. Of course, some of us do things differently. That's why we achieve, also part of the reason why we achieve also different things, but it's also about like being a human being, and I think that's lacking a lot, not only now in our industry but in our own industry as well. So it's really refreshing to hear that coming from a personality such as yourself. So yeah, thank you for that. And I actually, when we were having this test call a couple of days ago, you mentioned exactly what you mentioned now, which is automation. That's what's going to get our lives back. And I found that so interesting. Do you want to expand on that? I totally get that, by the way, but do you want to expand that to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, we are right. Like if you're looking at the moment of time, we're right at the moment where automations will join us, right? And I don't want to join automated process. I want automation to help us as a human. And that's very important, how everyone who is involved in creation of these algorithms, processes, integrating them to softwares, how they build them to replace human or to support human. It's a two different, basically, trees, branches we can go. And it's in our hands of everyone, basically. We've started using it. We've started looking into automations. How can you apply these automations to save you time? How you can control them and get exact results you want to do? And what I'm building at Tech-VA is the basically processes which will remove routine. And for now, for example, I will do a little intro to our tools. What we do is, so we can do automatic keying. We wrote our own mathematics for that. And we can extract green and blue screens automatically with a press of a button. You can also do a training. So that means that if our algorithm doesn't understand your material for the default approach, you can always train it with one-shot training. And for us, speed is very important. Training on one shot is approximately 1 minute. Prediction is almost real-time speed. It's milliseconds. We measuring all the statistics, so you can rely on our tools and schedule some work with them in the future. We also identify markers. And just last week, our great team of mathematicians went through breakthrough tracking, and we start doing 2D tracking automatically based on markers and some other things. We will be releasing some stuff soon, hopefully
that's great.
This next week.
I was about to ask, there's new things in the pipeline for you guys, but I didn't know if you wanted to disclose that or not, but you just did. So that's great.
Yeah. we also building our tools, because I worked in big companies. I can imagine what kind of pipelines can be. And I'm generalizing approaches for integration. So we're ready to go, with installing software and just a few lines of code, and we are in nuke, and then it's available for entire facility. And just press the button. You can run templates. We're releasing videos on our YouTube channel. With explanation of use cases of our technology. I'll be bringing more templates and more explanation, because there is a lots of actually important things about automation we need to understand. I'm integrating not this kind of things. I'm integrating different things and controlling. But what I know is automation must be under human control. Otherwise, you will get 100 of something instead of 100 of what you want. And that's a big difference.
That's a very, because I wanted to talk to you about that as well. But go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted your thought.
It's okay. And so basically, we need to be kind of consistent in our quality. And that's what we're putting into our tools from the beginning. We either do keying or not do keying. either identify markers or not. There is nothing in between identifying something wrong or super dissimilar. So you can at least rely on this. And there's a lot of other things needs to be written. But apart from just fancy pressing button and getting result, there is educational process which must happen, and that takes time as well, to understand how you can fit it into your pipelines. That's why also trying to simplify to the templates. That's what artists can understand. And from like amount of results artists can produce, producers can actually look at the schedule and understand how fast they can hit some results. And for now, what I'm kind of like in videos, I'm saying that I call it temp quality, but it depends on the work you do. So, for example, if it's a presentation, which like my green screen presentation, I obviously did it filmed on using my technologies all time. So there is a lots of work which you can like corporate videos and other things we do, which can be automatically done. And it's a good thing. If our clients are making money using our technology, they become richer. And that means that they stay our clients and we build tools for them. It's a win-win we're trying to build. So there is that's kind of the ideas and things we built at Tech-VA to help us not to die with amount of work and keep control over the systems.
Sure.
And one important thing as well, what we always do for the tools which requires controls, is that it's a values. You always can change them right now in Nuke if you need to. You can manipulate and iterate. There is no baked data. But for example, like when we generate Z depth, absolutely, yes, it's just generated Z depth for videos, which you can use for image segmentation, for defocuses and some other things. This technology will improve in some time anyways. So all of these things will come to our life, and we need to be able to work with them and have proper structure, not only to run them, to store material, which we actually took care about as well, where it plays to in your structure, etc. We're working on way smarter kind of like integration, but clear and transparent for everyone.
Yeah, I think you mentioned like a couple of things that I think is very, very important, which is not having it baked. For me, that's a big thing that we have to account for. And we've been seeing some tools also regarding machine learning these days. For example, you know, the tool of the day regarding the software that we all use, Copycat, right? Which has baked data. And I think for me, that's not only for me, for everybody. If you can't manipulate and iterate or have it open for you to manipulate in real time, you know, that defeats a little bit of the purpose of the whole thing anyway. But before we get into more specifics about this, for those of you that are watching it, maybe Vlad spoke a little bit too fast about what this company is all about. His company, we're talking about Tech-VA automated solutions. Okay, so Vlad not only is a compositing supervisor, a supervisor in general, because we just mentioned that he had different careers back in your home country, but also, and people can see on the label anyway, but also the founder of this company that it has like not even a couple of years. Does it have like a couple of years? Maybe well, just, yeah? We
started in 2019. I presented our prototype on Total Chaos conference in Bulgaria.
So there you go.
2019. That's why we prepared the prototype, which we've been building maybe for like a few months.
Yeah, and you've been teasing the community once in a while for the past maybe 1 year, 1.5 years, right? That's when I was aware of yourself, you know what I mean? In terms of like, okay, this seems a little bit interesting, so that's why I invited you on the show to talk about this. That this is now, it's great to know that it's actually a full-on company. It's not just like some tryouts and interesting things, you know what I mean? So that's great to know that.
We've been sorry to interrupt, but I just want to say that for past this year, apart from just machine learning itself, research and like doing a databases and all of this stuff, we also kind of like working on building up this paradigm of automation and whatever you call it, neural compositing, whatever. But the idea, we kind of even formulated it better of how nodes communicating to each other, how they can make a decision for human, and what priority tools we need to build to complete the task, not to do one thing, like not to only identify markers, not to only pull decay, but put it together and place background in it, and make a complete task of, for example, temp delivery. Temp deliveries are super time consuming in companies, and there is never time for that. And sometimes there is lots of simple work where I myself say, God, I wish I have second me. And that's what we're trying to build. You imply it, you organize it. There is a smart tools which control it. You execute it, and you get a result.
Yeah,
and that's what transformation can be as well.
Yeah, it's about all of these things that Vlad is talking about. For those of you that don't have this experience, because the companies that you're working for, you don't have temp deliveries or anything like that, but that can be very tedious for sure. And there are some, intermediate tasks that you have to produce for, the whole pipeline to run as normal. Talking about FG keys and stuff like that, it's very simple. We're not looking for perfection or anything like that. It's just intermediate tasks, but that can take a long time. And I just want to, on that point, I would like to talk to you about not so much about intermediate tasks, but I would like to ask, what's your view on auto comp tools? Because I'm sure you worked with them, right?
Well,
what's your view on that?
I'm building kind of one of them. So,
there you go.
And it's not my first approaches. First time I started kind of looking at after assemblies like 2014, 15, and try to implement them in different projects in different companies, because they are time savers.
Yeah, they are.
And if your company doesn't have this, it's going to be really hard to survive in the future.
Yeah, because more and more companies are using this type of automations, and that's how you compete efficiently with one another, right? If you're not in the game, you're losing, right? You're on the losing side of the game.
Absolutely. And by the way, our tools are built to be integrated to those sort of systems.
So cool. That's
to
great.
work on a render farm, to work in command lines. It's not only GUI, and to run all these processes separately.
Cool.
We basically like simple shots and examples on our YouTube channel with car, where you need to pull decay, remove markers. It's going to take you 30 minutes anyways, like to do all this stuff. That run automatically 2 minutes with the result, with the render, with the request, with everything. That's actually interesting for producers, can be and should be, but they really need to understand that machine is not working instead of us.
No. It's aiding.
Work.
It's aiding the work that we do, not swapping the work that we do. And that not only for producers, I think that's a very important part of the conversation, because especially younger artists that are on, they do roto tasks and more repetitive tasks in that sense, like cleanups and all that stuff. That can be very difficult. Also, don't get me wrong, as we all know, right? They kind of feel threatened, some of them more than others, obviously, about like what these new technologies will mean for my job, right? And I always say the same thing. Listen, I understand your concern, but what this will happen is you'll be more valuable as a human being to do other things. That if a machine can do that type of stuff, that means that you are free to do other stuff that is more interesting for everybody, including yourself in the first instance, right? So there's no reason, I don't think, for people to be threatened in any way, shape, or form. Quite the opposite, because this will open a lot of different possibilities. New things that we don't even know in this moment. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Absolutely. Like on my life example, I started from 2D animations, and I was quite good. We were doing amazing 2D animation commercials and films. Lots of things been automated, and I was just not sitting and just collecting some money. It wasn't crazy amount, but I was able to have my life. That was very important. But at some point, no one really needed 2D animation films. I had to switch to compositing. I had to switch to VFX and do all this work and learn then all other softwares which I didn't know before. So especially who's starting an industry. I'm not saying that they don't need to worry about anything. They just need to be smart. They need to be prepared. They need to learn. That's what I said on SIGGRAPH 2018 on Foundry panel, where I said, come on, people, we just need to learn more things every day. Like I learn every discipline around, like including FX, and like, I don't have time to do that. But I know how to deal with Unreal, how to render out passes from multiverse, like from Omniverse, for example, NVIDIA, and to not passes, but renders, like, and how to deal with all the USD formats, because it's actually not interesting. It's boring as hell. Because I want to receive a result. I want to see a nice image.
I understand,
And those steps for me, I want to remove them. I want to manipulate images. I know what the photorealistic image is. So if you think from that point of view, like, what is your target? What are you actually doing?
What's the end game, right? What
removing markers?
Exactly. What's really the end game? What are you? Because, let's not forget that these tasks, not only they need to be done, obviously. A lot of people, I would risk, just to be on the safe side, I would say 70% of people don't like to do them, okay? Let's say that 30% of people, they actually enjoy doing them, and that's a great thing because we need these people to actually enjoy what they do. But the great majority of people, they find these tasks boring. In any case, it's a way for you to get into the industry, and people normally, they go through that path, right? Maybe when we were starting out, that was not the norm because we were doing a little bit of everything, like including those, but not only, right? But the thing is, since we're talking about the majority, if the majority of people can skip that to actually be more valuable, like bringing the human value to the picture rather than just like repetitive tasks, I mean, it's a win-win situation for everybody, including, as I just said, for the actual person or persons that are actually doing the job, right? In first instance.
Well, absolutely. Just like to say a word about all this roto prep work. It's absolutely horrible and hard work to do. I mean, honestly, for people like who don't like it, it's difficult. I have lots of respect to these people, and also, like, from business perspective, it's quite good business because you don't have creative comments on marker being removed. It's either removed or not removed. You don't need to paint it to bluer or to whatever. So you can basically calculate amount of work and money you can do.
It's more predictable in that sense, right?
Predictable.
Yeah.
So, and some people do love this work, and some people just run businesses on it, and it's great. Yeah. They have workplaces, and they do what we need. But yes, when things can be done automatically, it's time to move on to something new. And you're absolutely right. Like, I'm dealing with image analysis in different aspects of it, like creating different type of data sets and working. It's so many interesting information we can find in image, which we basically don't have time to look at. And or maybe we don't have a pinholes to look at, something super specific, and gain some knowledge from it, new things, right?
For sure.
Move on to new effects, new way of storytelling, and new kind of visual effects, and leave all these things what can be done automatically to the machines. That's what I'm saying. In our slogan, leave routine to machines. That's what we're offering.
I saw that too. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, but listen, also as from the supervision point of view, what we do, and this is, if you guys want to consider this a tip, go ahead. It's not meant to be a tip. It is what it is. But part of the way that you get noticed in order for you to get into supervision roles, whether it's like, or leadership roles, let's call it like this, whether it's leading or being a supervisor, is exactly to think about systems like this, to think about optimization, because you're not thinking only about your task, your shot. You're talking about, a more broad picture. It's about the big picture. It's about a team. It's about the company. It's about the show, not about this shot or that shot that is in your plate. Yeah, that has to be done as well. But the way that you also get noticed is try to find solutions that are that you can replicate semi-automatically or fully automatically to other people. You know what I mean? It's a win-win situation for everybody, and that's how you get noticed. How you do that? Well, learning Python, I would say it's a big plus. As I said many times, when I was starting with Python, the documentation out there was almost inexistent in terms of the API and all that stuff for what we were doing. These days it's quite different, so take advantage of that. And the fact that we are living this pandemic and probably found yourself out of a job, that's unfortunately, obviously, but you can take that also as an opportunity to learn all of these things that once the industry is back, which is the moment right now you can offer more that you could before, you know what I mean? So all of these things, I think it's very important. And the way that you get noticed is to think about, of course, it's not the only way, it's one of the ways. Think about the more broad picture, more like high level kind of like an eagle eye kind of a view, rather than just like your little shot, your little task. You know, can be very important for the whole show. I'm not saying the opposite, but you know, this is a business. It's not about just that. So if you can help the business thrive, of course, people will thank you and probably will think about you in a different way.
Right? Well, absolutely. I also want to add to that is it is very important to put attention to standardization and normalization. Normalization for data. Whatever utility passes you receive, whatever your lighting is doing, how you're building up scenes and layout, if it's normalized, you can process lots of shots simultaneously. Mm-hmm. If it's not, it's a nightmare. Second thing, but like also important, is a standardization for naming conventions, for templates, for all of this structure of reviews, dailies, how the comments are coming back, in what format, in what structure. It sounds a little bit robotic, but those things actually, in my opinion, need to be standardized and under control, so we don't spend time on those kind of broken communication, misunderstanding, misinterpretation of feedback, as well as like if that is consistent, as I said, you can just process lots of things.
Yeah.
And naming conventions.
That's paramount. Yeah.
I'm talking about naming conventions all the time that make your life easier. Your creativity is not how long you actually building up the script. It's not even a template. It's the result, probably, right? That's what we see. And what is inside, as simple as possible and as automatic as possible, in my opinion.
Couldn't agree more. And people that know me and know the show, for now, we're talking about like already the second season. I've been saying this, you know, for so long that it's great to have, I guess, saying basically the same things in a different way, because talking about different person, obviously. So that's great. But tell me, how, in terms of like this data science, more specifically, how did that journey started for you? Because as I said also in the show, there was a time in which transition from VFX to data science. I didn't. And now we have all these new tools that are based on data science, which is like a very broad topic anyway. So how was that for you, that journey?
That was interesting. Basically, my first task was on, I think it was 2015 or 14, I don't remember. I was looking into Deep Dream, and my friend, who is my partner in development as well, he sent me a few things for my Mac. We set up Docker and we set up some stuff, and it started doing some whatever hallucinations on this Deep Dream with crazy dogs and eyes. I looked at that. I said, okay, so I want actually get a character from it, and that was probably the beginning. So I took the footage. I filmed the footage in the mountains here, and ran it through Deep Dream. It did some hallucinations. I extracted something what looks like a character and comped it back to that. And like, okay, so that's interesting. That's crazy. It was looking really strange. But what else can I do with this? And I start reading on conferences. Before COVID, I was going to Russia every year, once or two times, to the CG event. It's a Russian conference, and there's lots of topics there about machine learning and all these things. And I started looking into that, and in St. Petersburg, I received a book which was from, I think, St. Petersburg Technical University, about machine learning and data science. I started reading it, and like, okay, so we can connect things. I love connecting things. Take one technology, another one, put it together.
Yeah.
Something doesn't work, change it, But not saying I don't care about technologies, they are important, but what kind of technology to use, it doesn't matter when you're building a prototype. And I started building prototypes, and then it was just like going deeper and deeper into the research and reading GitHubs, reading everything. And but in our development, I spend most of my time on like front end with Python and what tools we built and what do we need to receive as a result. I write first prototypes, and then we think about data, how we're going to build these data sets and what they need to have. I had to write a lot of automations to deal with data science.
Yeah.
Even to create automated tools. There's a way more automations behind. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's clear actually, and I invite everyone to watch the company's YouTube channel, in which there's not a lot of videos, but the ones that are there, maybe we're talking about 7 or 8 of them, right?
It's a few only.
It's a few of them, but they're really interesting in that sense. And one thing that it's clear, or it was clear for me, was the fact that this is not one node and then you just click and it does everything for you. No, you have to integrate this into already a system. This is just like that boring test of that system that you don't want to do because the machine can do for you, you know what I mean? So that doesn't swap, again, that doesn't swap, or that doesn't take away the human factor. It just enhances it by just automate, well, you know, this let's call it boring tasks, you know what I mean? Because they're repetitive. That's only because of that I'm calling it boring. Right?
Well, the whole paradigm is to automate compositing. I mean, yes, to automate compositing, because they will just provide us results. What we create is in our hands of templates, is in our hands of the final target and goal. Well, I can't wait to start experimenting with our tracking system, because we might be able to connect it to Unreal as well. We'll see. It really depends on resources. We can go,
because there's so many avenues that you can take these things, isn't it? It's like unbelievable. You start here, and then you have, like, you know, God knows how many branches that you can explore, right?
Universe. Yeah. The whole universe. Well, I honestly, this is interesting. That's kind of reminded me of one thing, which is, I think, very interesting for the future. If you look at all this machine learning and image analysis, mostly it's built by programists who deal with images as a references or data sets, whatever parts. We compositors actually know what the photorealistic results are. Our brain working super well with pattern recognition, with different kind of analysis and expertise saying that doesn't look organic in this area. We have this knowledge, which I believe will help us in the future, I mean, in general, humanity, to build more accurate data sets for something important, something where details are important, and we know what to look at as well.
Yeah, I mean, science, like in terms of medical side of things, of course, that's very important. When you look at an image of whatever, and this is quite one of the most common examples when people are trying to explain what data science is or what machine learning can do for us as humankind. You know, the medical part is always one of the things that people are really, you know, they can relate to that, right? Because, you know, if you have these days, just for people to understand what I'm saying, these days, when you look at an exam, a medical exam, it takes the expertise of the doctor to look at the exam and to interpret that exam, right? Okay, this doesn't look good, or this looks weird, or we should look more into this or that. But that's just one person per one patient, right? At a time. If you have machines, you know, trained with the very big data sets to do that analysis in seconds for thousands of patients, you can see the benefit, right? I think everyone can understand that, and this is always one of the most common examples that when you found information about data science in general or machine learning, more particular to what it can do to us humans, people can understand this quite well. So you can transpose this type of example to whatever you do in life. You know what I mean? So if you can automate all of those things, if you can analyze way more that no human could possibly do, that leaves us humans to do what humans can do instead. You know what I mean? So I think that's so important. And for me, it's very clear, actually.
Well, yeah, and also like dealing with data science, we need to understand responsibility. So if you're building a medical grade or military grade technologies, it's a one thing. When machine learning is getting integrated in something where it's making decision is if human guilty or not, and the system relying on that, that's scary.
That's scary. Yes, that's scary.
There is a lots of basically as well, like dealing with all these automations. I see lots of bad ways applying machine learning, and
for sure
that's what is like can be left just on the human aspect. Like, well, what is your moral principles? Are they allowing you to do that, or you just don't care? It will be in front of someone at some point. It's up to them, probably.
Speaking of which, there was one time, not that long ago, Elon Musk, which uses a lot of these things in whatever he does, machine learning, in many different ways, obviously, cars, space, whatever, you name it, right? He was actually defending that we should have a commission that regulates machine learning technologies, exactly because of those reasons that you're talking about. And you would say, or you could think like, oh, this type of people or this guy surely is on the winning side, so he doesn't want anything to be controlling. It doesn't want any commission or whatever to control, the things that he can explore with that type of technology. But it's actually the opposite, because if you pass a certain threshold, you lose control a bit. You know what I mean? And that's why he seems like really genuinely concerned about like we need to have like some sort of commission, or I think he mentioned commission to actually regulate this type of stuff in the same ways that we have commissions to regulate other things. You know what I mean? Whether it's energy or whatever that we do these days, he's very strongly of defending regulation for machine learning, and I think we can understand.
It is very important. It is very important to do something regulated, or at least maybe having a hub where like, hey guys, looks like we found something dangerous and scary. I might sound like from sci-fi movie, but like imagine if you're watching images with kittens, but you're experiencing absolutely different feelings and emotions. Something different been planted and bring some cognitive dissonance to what you see. That's scary as hell.
Yeah.
And looking at what actually research is trying to do with the waves, like sounds, and bringing it to the focus and all of those things, that bringing us to the not mass control things for the video, but similar to that, there's lots of things about humans research recently, and like depression. You can be sick with depression from other human because of the waves So that's already research is proving that. So if you can find that, if you can generate waves, oh Jesus Christ! Like I even don't want to know what kind of world it will be.
Yeah, it's scary, and for sure I understand the need of regulating these technologies in the same way that we have with others. So this is no different. Actually, we can argue that if we have in others, surely we need on this one for sure, right? So yeah, it's one of those things. We'll see what.
Luckily, we're in early days, but about like using machine learning and visual effects, like going back to industry, I want to say that we need to, not maybe now, but at some point, just figure out. It will be a question. Okay, so we using machine learning, generalizing knowledge. To whom this knowledge belongs to?
That's a more philosophical question, isn't it? That takes us to
very good ethical question.
Yeah.
But again, there is no blame should happen. We just need to figure out the smart way kind of understanding what is generalized knowledge, what is your personal expertise, put it into that generalized knowledge. And it's not a question of today or next 3 years or whatever, but after that, on a bigger scale, it will be kind of noticeable.
Yeah.
And we discussed with some other companies who's working in blockchain, for example, smart contracts and all these things, connecting all these things together. But that's not like even my area of expertise. It needs to be a global thing. We need to sit together and discuss these ways.
One of the discussions regarding that type of issues is, for example, when you train a model and you train this model in a certain location, in a certain machine, whether it's local or not local, it can be in the cloud or whatever, there's obviously concerns that we have to take in consideration about, like, the intellectual property. That training, does that belong to the company that hired you? Does that belong to the company that designed the model? To whom that it's one of those things that a lot of people don't think about. But this is definitely one thing that people. Of course, people that are in the business, of course, they think about these things, and they have things in place, policies in place for that, for sure. But this is one of the things that most of us don't think that much, because we just push a button and the result is there. But let's not forget the fact that you're taking an image that has a certain copyright to something to be trained outside your workstation.
We offer, like, for companies, we offer enterprise solution, which is allowing, like, work inside facility without.
No, I'm not talking about. But I'm talking about specifically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there is a way.
Generally, I mean.
Yeah, but there is a ways of, like, for example, we're not transferring images either. We preparing some array and just enough to analyze and give a correct result, because we don't want to deal with it. And it's a standards. NDA, it's a standards, and we care about this in this way.
So for those of you that don't know exactly what I'm talking about, me and Vlad, we're talking about this IP possible infringement because of data science. There's actually, I believe it's on Foundry's website, there's a section there only regarding machine learning, in which there's at some point this type of discussions going on as well, and what are the current practices regarding these issues that we just mentioned right now. So I think it's a good read for those of you that would like to know a little bit more about this. I think it's a good read for you to continue your education in this technology that, without a doubt, it's going to be the future. It's at the moment already some things, as for example what Vlad is doing with Tech-VA, some things more applicable in more specific things, but it's definitely the beginning. It's just the beginning. And one of the things that I would like to ask you about also, Vlad, is what are your thoughts about, Foundry obviously just released the Copycat, right? Which is, a tool, again, in the beginnings of this whole machine learning applied to what we do. But for me, the biggest downside is the fact that it's baked. So if you can't open the result for you to further tweak it, you're just like relying on luck, like, okay, I'm gonna train this model for 12 hours or 20 hours or whatever, that might be, depending on the task and the length and all that stuff. You pray for the best, but if things don't go exactly as planned, which is probably the norm if the data set is not big enough, what I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna have to train again, and hope again for the same result. So I think it's very important for these tools to be open in the way that you can iterate them manually if you need to. If you don't need to, it's good for everybody, right? But that's not probably what's gonna happen most of the time. So I would like to hear your thoughts about that, because you just mentioned that in the beginning of your presentation about the company, your company.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's why we built everything what we want to control. We don't do baked data because it's a cake, and I can't do anything with this cake if I need to change something.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a baked cake. Yeah. Well, there is a certain things for example, like guns and style transfers, right? Like what is Copycat is like that similar thing. It's how this algorithm been built and what it can produce. And I think I think it will evolve to something different. And when it will allow us to make hallucinations in real time on GPU or do optimization, which that's a hallucinations, right, of neural network. Even though, for example, I'm building experimental tool. Okay, I'll talk about it. It's an open source. I just took one of the guns and ClipEye to text recognition, and you can type, and it will start doing some hallucinations for you. It's not a tool which we can use at the moment, but I brought lots of controls, basically everything what I can control from requests to manipulate that. And there is a possibilities. I can't show you now, but I'll send you, Pedro, the way how we can compare epochs. And for example, in my approaches, you can run a sequence and you can hallucinate on every frame of the sequence, any amount of hallucinations, and compare them and just see what result you can get. But it's a guessing. In the future, those algorithms need to change, and it will be different type of algorithms. I'm pretty sure. I don't want to say many things of what I'm kind of thinking, course, because it can help to kind of step on a path. And now it's a fight.
Exactly. Of course.
It's a fight.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. Yeah.
Some things will be possible, but for now, big algorithms, all these big data sets are possible, to be created by big corporations, open source community. That is kind of the stopper for more experiments on algorithms themselves, because quite a lot of papers is just a variation of that paper, this paper, and that thing, and we just put some transformers or something else there. And we, as it's lots of jokes in machine data science communities, machine learning, about we spent $10 million on that, and we do it by 0.1% more accurate.
Exactly. Wonderful. That's the fight, isn't it? But that's the fight.
We're at this time where lots of things needs to be researched. That's why, I see that big companies, they do big steps. Just broad the picture.
Yeah.
Okay, we can look into this area of data analysis. Great. We can do this. We can do that. I'm considering me as a small company who's developing machine learning based tools. We're using some of this knowledge, which they're sharing with us, and we can put lots of things in our way. And that's what someone will do something new approach, new combination of algorithms, and maybe we'll get something what you want, but it really depends on the task. So maybe first it's really figuring out what we need to do. And maybe we don't need generalized tools for that. Maybe we just need a few different tools with a few different approaches to build what we want and rely on it.
Yeah, sure.
It's never one thing. It always will be combination of approaches.
Yeah, and that's actually how different companies will win. It's because that's basically what we have at the moment. You take this idea, that idea, you combine them together, you join other things that you have from your past that can be even unrelated with those two. You know what I mean? But that's how new things are born these days. Because a lot of things, I'll forget of that, a lot of these things are already invented. So the time now is to, refine, as I just mentioned in the intro of this episode, refine what we have in a different way, is mixing and matching, combine different things, combine things that are not even related with each other to come up with a true unique thing, you know what I mean? Based on things that already exist. That's the fight. Yeah. For sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's always evolving. If it's a company which stuck to one algorithm, it's the end of the company from the beginning. There's no point doing it.
There you go, guys. We are over 1 hour, way over 1 hour actually. Guys, if you have any questions, people are super quiet, by the way, today. They're listening to us I wanna believe that they're so quiet because they're really interested in what you were saying, Vlad. They might be shy also. They might be shy also. But guys, if you have questions, please type them down so we can read them. Yeah, you're about to say,
I just want to say automation. It is a hard topic. I'm trying to find the correct words to explain that as well, because sometimes you're like, oh, you can do that automatically. Wow, okay. Why would I need that? That's
well. Listen, we already looked at many different examples of why you want to do that. You know what I mean? There's plenty of reasons why everybody would like to have that in their lives. You know what I mean? Of course, listen, I'm not gonna take away the fact also, and I think this is also important to talk about, which is every time that there's like this big disruption in technology, of course, the world is gonna become better in medium term. Of course, you know, on the short term, that can mean also some disruption for some people. Right? So that's why I think it's also important to adapt, to learn new things, to embrace these things, so you can also be a part of that new change. If you don't want to learn, if you want to stay exactly the same way that you are 20 years from now, 10 years from now, 40 years, if you don't want to do anything while the world is changing and you don't change, of course you're going to suffer, you know what I mean? So I think it's also very important to not look at these technologies, because we have many different examples throughout history, human history, in which things evolved. You know what I mean? Now we have cars. There was a time in which cars were not existent. You know what I mean? Planes, you know, you name it. You know what I mean? Dishwashers, you know, all of these things that can mean like great things for us as humans, right? But you have to adapt to these things. And of course, evolution technology-wise is never linear, it's exponential. And of course, you know, older people will have a more hard time to adapt in comparison with younger people. But in any case, and we've seen this in many different examples in history, you know, we have to adapt our lives to these things and not to be concerned all the time without doing anything about it. You know what I mean? So I'm not taking away the fact that, you know, it's going to be all bells and whistles, like it's going to be all fine for everybody from day one. Of course, there will be some casualties, if you want to put it, things like this. But I think all in all, it's going to benefit everyone. You know what I mean? So it's important also, I would say, to have this in mind, without forgetting also that there are people that, you know, there are in countries in which technology is not as accessible as we have it in our lives, for example. But, you know, we have to do what you can. You have to do what you can. And you'll see that if you do what you can, but really do it, you know, the road will open for you, slowly but steady.
Oh, absolutely. Even like starting from Python, for example. Lots of people are afraid learning Python.
Yeah.
Listen, guys. Just if you nuke, just type import nuke, type print hello, put your name, and press enter. You're not launching a rocket. Okay. You are doing a simple loops. Lots of automations in VFX and routine can be fixed with a few loops and couple of conditions. And your life, even with that, will become easier 100 times on some tasks.
For sure.
From that, you're not launching rockets. I mean, if you're in a studio environment, just please be careful. But if you're doing it on your own machine and you're not impacting infrastructure, no one's going to be harmed. And you can experiment as much as you can, as much as you want, and be creative. There is also no one way to write in Python. It's lots of different ways you can write approaches, and it will tell you if it doesn't understand what you wrote. And now AI came in and helping co-coding with you, but you need to know what you're doing. I mean, always in films, in everything. What is your goal? What is your target?
I think we can't top that, so I think we're gonna leave it here, Vlad, with those words. I just want to say something, which is next week you're gonna have a talk with Foundry, right, about Tech-VA, right? So for those of you that would like to attend, this will be on August 26th. Is it?
Yep, that's correct.
So August 26th. So if you'd like to attend, you can go to Tech-VA LinkedIn page. The invite is there, like the page in which you can register yourself is there. You can also go to Foundry's website for sure, and I'll be putting the link also in the description of this video later on. So you have all all the possibilities for you to attend if you wish to. This is going to be again August 26th, so next week. Okay, it's going to be Wednesday, Wednesday or Thursday, right?
Thursday. It's Thursday. Yes.
So
Thursday, yes.
it's a week from tomorrow, and it's going to be interesting because a lot of things we already touched today. Probably Vlad, I'm just guessing, I don't know, because Vlad didn't disclose anything special for me regarding what they're going to talk about, but I'm sure they're going to talk about more specifics. So if you'd like to attend, these are the ways that you can do that. There's no questions from the public. People are like really interested in the conversation as a conversation. Maybe they're scared about asking questions. I hope you.
There is no stupid questions.
No, there's no stupid questions.
That's how I live. There is no stupid questions. I mean, there are some, but there is no stupid questions about things you don't know. It's fine to not know something.
Exactly. That's always what I say to people as well. So, but since there's none, I hope you have more more luck next week with Foundry. Okay, Vlad. But thank you so much for coming in. It was great. I would be here for another hour for sure. But we don't want to bore people, so we got to leave it here. We got to leave it here. And yeah, see you soon, I guess. Nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you, yes. And great show, though. Amazing. You're doing great work, explaining people what's going on. It's needed for all of us.
Cool. Thank you so much, Vlad.
Thank you, Pedro.
Please stay on. We're going to see each other, guys, in a couple of weeks. Maybe a little bit more, as I said in the beginning, but I'll keep you posted. In any case, I'll see you next time. All right, Vlad, thank you once again, and bye-bye, everyone. Vlad, stay on because we're going to have like our final chat, yeah? All right, bye-bye, guys. See ya.